Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to our monthly live stream. I'm Jonathan Stevens with Audiophile. Glad to be back with you all. Want to thank Nick for hosting last month. I heard everybody said it was a great turnout and a great conversation with Michael Fremer, who's always a great guest of the Audiophile team. Welcome, Sonus Faber. We're excited to welcome back this time Jeff Coates, who we'll introduce here in just a minute. Let us know where it is that you are dialing in from. It's great to see folks all over the country and even all over the world joining our monthly live stream. We've got a lot of fun topics to talk about, and we've got a fantastic product that we're going to be giving away that we're super excited to tell you all more about. Let us know again where it is that you are dialing in from, and if you've got a fun beverage for this 5 o'clock here on the East Coast, let us know what it is that you're drinking. And we're excited. We're going to be giving away this time around. We're going to be giving away a $100 Audiophile website gift card. So if you've got a great question, we're going to give that away at the end. So go ahead and put all of those questions in. We can see them across YouTube and Facebook. We'll get through as many of those as we can over the next hour. And then, like I said, we will announce our winner that we'll talk about here in just a second. And then we'll let you guys know what we're going to be doing next month. So with that said, Jeff, welcome back. It's great to have you. Everybody said you did such a great job last month. Everybody said bring him back.
Oh, that was great. Well, it's yeah. I mean, do I get the SNL style blazer like for the multiple hosts?
That's right.
That's
multiple
what I'm hoping
for. I think you're the first back-to-back guest that we've had, so we'll come up with a nice little silver album for you or something like that. We'll
Lovely. All right, that's just what I need. More records. So
that's right. That's right.
No, it's great. Really delighted to be back, and it's very cool to be here talking about Sonus Faber today. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to talk through sort of the big giveaway for the call, or you want me to do a little conversation about it.
Yeah, maybe just start off, just let everybody know your connection to Sonos Faber, what it is that you do, maybe if they missed last month, and then maybe just give a high level description of what it is that we're giving away, and then of course we'll unpack it here in just a few minutes.
Nice. All right. Well, I have the great distinction of working with a lot of great brands under the Fine Sounds umbrella. So my day job is typically with Project, Rotel, and Sumiko Phono cartridges. But today I get to fill in for Sonus Faber. I can tell you, this is one of those brands that, like Macintosh, our sister company, when I got a chance to go and visit the Sonus Faber factory in Vicenza, Italy a few years ago, it made me an absolute true believer in the process, in the attention to detail, and the design, the passion that goes into this product. And it's really cool to be bringing that sort of passion and about this category to a brand new type of product for Sonus Faber. Our first ever stereo wireless speaker product called Duetto, which we're very excited about.
Very, very cool. And retail value is?
Where are we? Retail value $30,999.
There we go. So $4,000 value, which is amazing, and they're going to be shipping here real soon. So again, great to see folks dialing in from all over the place. I see New Jersey, Colorado, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, even down the road here in Raleigh. Cool to see folks coming in from all over the place. Nick, we'll come to you next. Welcome back. Thanks for doing a great job hosting over the last couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great live stream last time. Looking forward to this one. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nick. I do part of our theater designs for the online side. And so we go in and do custom theaters, but I'm also a major 2-channel enthusiast, so to speak. I can't call myself an audiophile quite yet. That's got to be just bestowed upon you rather than just being self-proclaimed.
And you need to be able to grow a little more facial hair, I think, before you
a few more years.
All right, very cool. Welcome back again. You're doing a great job. Thanks for being here with us. Jeff, maybe we'll turn it back. Actually, I think the question we want to throw out to everyone just for fun is, with Halloween now behind us, of course, you'll start seeing all the Christmas decorations, I'm sure, all over the place if you haven't already. So what is it that is on your Christmas list or your holiday wish list? Let us know what it is. Nick, kick us off. What's on your holiday wish list?
So if you guys have been following, the past couple months, my house has changed. So that means I've got a new theater. So I've been in the process of redoing that, which I've got it mostly set up now, but I'm looking for some new chairs to put in there. So, a lot of my theater upgrades are Christmas presents to myself or, random presents throughout the year to myself. So I'm looking at either
from me, right?
Yeah, a little to me from me just shows up on the porch. We've got the new Revelation chairs I've been looking at, as well as some of the new Row 1, the Cavalari's, is that?
Calvaries.
Calvaries,
Yeah,
Cavatopi, something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, those are on my list. Those are gonna be my next addition, since I've got a little bit more seating area.
Yeah, very cool. We'll drop a link to the Revelation video that we did. That's actually an audio device chair that we came up with, that we brought in. Has great feedback. We launched it at Audio Device Live back in August, and it's has some great reviews. So be sure to check that out. Jeff, what is on your Christmas wish list or holiday wish list?
You know, it's not going to be nearly as fun. I mean, I'm actually really very fortunate to have a great space and a lot of cool stuff already from an audio perspective. So what I'm excited about is getting an off-season deal on one of those Ego cooler fans that run off a battery. You know, kids do, you know, baseball and the swim team and all that stuff down here in Texas in the summertime, and it is hot. So some people had one of those fans last year, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. Kind of a, you know, fan and blows cool air on you, which whatever. So totally not audio related, but that's what I'm hoping I get from the family for Christmas. So there it is.
Very cool. I see some cool recommendations in the chat here. JL audio subs, some more Macintosh, of course, always really popular. Nice. I'll take a pair of Sonos Faber Liliums. Happy to, you know, go ahead and put those up in the 2-channel setup. So I'm actually finally getting to the point where I'm gonna have like a dedicated 2-channel room, which I'm super excited about.
Nice.
Maybe give me some suggestions in the chat for you guys. Maybe have some ideas. But I'm excited to. I've had, you know, audio all over the place, but I'm finally kind of got approval from the wife to carve out a little room, and I'm excited about building that out here in the next few weeks. All right, Jeff, tell us a little bit about Sonos Faber. For those who aren't as familiar with the brand, you mentioned, you know, the Italian history and heritage, and, you know, your trip to be able to go over there and see it all first person. So maybe you can speak a little bit about just the brand for those folks who maybe aren't as familiar. Then we can unpack a little bit more into the specific duettos this time.
So there was a great comment that came up in the chat from Davis Turner about, you know, what sets aside a speaker company when you actually go and visit the factory. Like what can you tell about a company? Perfect. There it is. And one of the things that really got me was the number of individual hands that go into this product during production. And then by the time we get into products like, you know, the Homage series, or even, you know, you mentioned Liliums and some of these, a lot of these are built in pairs. So there's, you know, your Liliums come off from the cabinet shop. They're finish matched from the same sheet of veneer, and they are built as sisters. So those are really cool. Beautifully hand assembled. And just the attention and care and love that goes into the manufacture of these products. It's very special. Because it's, you know, we've all been in some manufacturing process where it's all robots and it's just sort of like, oh yeah, this is just kind of magically happening. But when you see the hand finishing that goes on, the treatment for the natural materials, the way that they handle the leather, the actual wood finishes, it's really fantastic. So yeah, this is Sonos Faber's 40th year. So 40th anniversary, very big deal. But it's a company that since the beginning has really prided ourselves in the use of natural materials. So a lot of it comes down to, when you look at a Sonus Faber cabinet, it's going to have beautiful wood finish. You're going to have a lot of leather. The drivers themselves, typically we shy away from things like metal. So you won't see, like, with very few exceptions, we usually don't use like beryllium drivers or aluminum cones. It's a lot of natural materials. So Kapok, paper pulp, silk dome tweeters. Really go for that, because we feel like that really gives you an opportunity to get a really beautiful natural sound without leaning a little more analytical, which is what we find for a lot of the, you know, some of those other products.
And you mentioned this year was the 40th year anniversary of Sonos Faber. So you guys had a really cool project that you guys relaunched, I guess, back earlier this summer. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was really wonderful to have the Stradivari, the 40th anniversary Strad that we were able to ship in for Audio Advice Live. So we actually demonstrated two really cool products at Audio Advice Live this year. The Stradivari, which we drove with Rotel Michi Electronics, and the product that we're talking about today, Duetto, got its North American debut as Project Dreadnought. We were trying to keep it like very much under wraps what the heck it was. But we had a lot of folks that came into the show in Raleigh that were like, please, when can I buy them? I'll take them with me today. What's the price?
Right.
Really was wonderful to get them out in front of the public and kind of get some of that enthusiasm in advance of the product launch.
Yeah, so that was cool for. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it was one of the products that we rarely see a powered speaker, or an active speaker rather, kind of take have as much of an impact at those shows. Is people are like, you're thinking about these massive speakers, and people coming up and being like, well, this new powered active speaker is stealing the show. And so we just had a ton of hype around it.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. And it ties into, and this is something that you said at the beginning, at the top of the stream, Nick, and about being an audiophile. I would disagree. I think there's a sense of enjoyment. I don't think you need to wait to be anointed as an audiophile. You just kind of know it. If you're you're talking to your friends and you get excited about music, you get excited about the equipment it plays back on. But it's really like that passion comes in, and that's really the key of a true audiophile. So as far as I'm concerned, if you need to be anointed as one, consider it, you have been knighted.
Well, we'll do that for the entire chat here too.
Exactly.
So
everybody
in the chat, you're all anointed now, so you can call yourself that.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, that was really cool for you guys to bring both the Stradivari's and obviously the Duettos to Audiophile Live. Can't wait. You guys supported us in a huge, huge way this year, and can't wait to bring it back next year and see what else we're going to be able to reveal next year. We already have the dates, August 2nd through the 4th, so we'll be sharing more about that as we get closer and closer. Maybe talk to us a little bit about sort of what went into the thought and the design of the Duettos, and sort of the positioning, who you guys had in mind as you guys started to bring that product to market.
Yeah, sure. So the first product in this lineup was Omnia, which is a tabletop single loudspeaker, really beautiful design that was designed kind of to sit on like a lowboy stand or something, maybe underneath a flat panel television, just be a really gorgeous single speaker for more people that maybe weren't into having a traditional lifestyle. We knew we could take that idea a little bit further, though, because no matter how well you do with a single device, it's really, really, really difficult to get a proper stereo image. There's just something about having two physical loudspeakers in a room. So the idea with Duetto was to take that more conventional hi-fi speaker profile, but make it very simple, very elegant, very, very good sounding and high performance, so that you could sort of bridge that. Maybe you don't have a dedicated room to listen to music in, but you could park something on either side of maybe a fireplace or on the side of your flat panel in a living room, and something that had the ability to do HDMI EARC, to do stream from just about any mobile device or computer or streaming service you like. And it still have analog and digital connectivity for connecting your legacy sources.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, what did you think when maybe the first time you said you saw them in person? Give us some sort of your reaction.
Well, I mean, of course, it's Sonus Faber. So the very first thing you notice is always fit and finish with Sonus Faber speakers. That's one of those things that it's really hard to beat the look of those. So, that was first impression. We sat down, I think the first time I listened to him, it was a more crowded room. And so I was off axis and I was like, okay, this is a good speaker. I came back later and got to sit center stage, and it was phenomenal. So I absolutely enjoyed him.
Very cool. And I think, one of the things for our customer base, especially like at a national level with our e-commerce business, a lot of folks, maybe over the pandemic, they upgraded their TV and they sort of realized, hey, the audio coming from the TV is just not up to where I want it to be. And so this category, I think, has really exploded to be able to sort of provide a much better listening experience, right? Using bookshelf speakers, using what they call EARC or EARC, right, as the input. And that's really been able to sort of really elevate, the audio experience that you're able to get, while you're watching TV, whether you're watching even home theater, but especially, concerts on TV, those kinds of things. So, this has been, I think you guys really nailed it in thinking about that type of a category and then bringing that to market in a big way.
Yeah,
it's streaming. Oh, yeah.
So go ahead, John. It's challenging, right? So you take this and it's like, well, what's your main use case, right? So if it's just straight ahead streaming audio, these are 3 dB down in a typical room, about 37 hertz. So they'll do, low E on a bass guitar. They'll give you plenty of extension. I did see a question pop up in the chat, but one of the cool things that we built into Duetto, you plug in a powered subwoofer, it automatically dials in the crossover, so it redirects all the really deep bass. And there was a slider inside the Sonus Faber app, but between 100 and 150 cycles. So you can redirect all the really deep bass to a powered sub. So if you need a little bit more scale, you're doing a lot more home theater, and you want the room to really, be shaken when you've got that, that big explosion up for a home theater, we can add that to it as well, which is very cool.
Yeah. So streaming, and as the question here from Daniel asked, is this a good option for soundbar replacement? I think absolutely, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Someone asked, sub out, is that an option for these?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so it's a plug-in. It's an automatic sensing. So as soon as you engage the subwoofer output, it automatically crosses over that 5.25-inch driver. So that 250-watt amplifier and the 5.25-inch driver is only going to be handling the high pass. Whatever you set inside the Sonus Faber app, you actually have a selectable sliding crossover option.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the app and what you're able to do there? And I think we've got a great video review where we actually have some screenshots of that, but maybe you can kind of walk us through some of the functionality there.
Excellent. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea with this is, first, I'll take a step back. The idea is for your basic day-to-day operation, you do not have to use our app. And we include a nice basic little wireless remote control that has input selection, mute, volume, etc. Or if you're doing predominantly streaming or HDMI, EARC, turn on your television, use your streaming apps as you normally would. TV remote's going to control the Duetto's volume. If you're inside of a streaming app, you're doing Spotify Connect, you're doing Tidal Connect, you're controlling the system via Rune or AirPlay or Chromecast, your mobile device, your tablet's going to control the loudspeaker. So we really wanted to make it as simple as whatever the customer was already using to engage with their music or with their films, you can use that same control mechanism. But inside the app, we were able to do some cool things. Actually had some additional DSP built in for maximizing the performance based on where you have to put the speaker. Sometimes we're a little closer to the wall than we want to be. The speaker does have a rear firing vent that's actually part of the heat sinking for the amplification. So we can actually tone that down to eliminate some of that additional room gain that you get when you're too close to a wall. But that's that control of the crossover frequency, bass, treble, some basic DSP functionalities built into the app.
Yeah, touching on the streaming side, I love whenever I personally use Google Home across my whole house. I'm a very DIY type automation person for most of my things. My theater's control for it, but whenever I set up my speakers, I've got Chromecast for everything, so I can use it with Rune. But also, if you have Google Home. Here, I'm going to probably set off a bunch of people's houses, but I say, hey, Google, play music in the living room or play whatever in the living room. If you have Chromecast speakers, you can set that speaker as your default zone. So it doesn't play through the little tiny, Google Home pieces. You're actually having music in your living room. People love that. And you can also sync together different zones. So if I have, a single speaker in my kitchen that's, from a different brand entirely, I can have both of them play, in sync in synchronization. We're also going to play in sync, either one. We like, bye.
If that's what you're into.
They can play in sync. They can play basically anything on Spotify.
Yeah. Nice. So we had I saw a couple interesting questions pop up in the chat, kind of use cases for the speaker. So these are designed to really be in the main left and right channel in a stereo system, or in a very simple, like a 2.1 home theater environment. So maybe you just have the speakers with a subwoofer. There is no preamp level input for use as like a powered rear speaker with an existing processor. The use case here is really when you've got that space where you really want to get great sound, but don't necessarily have a space for a big rack of components.
Got it. Is it any thought to, room dimension? What's the right size, or is that as big of a factor for something like these?
Yeah, I mean, we like it probably. I've heard them in ridiculously large rooms. Like any smaller loudspeaker, you simply will lose the ability to pressurize a really, really, really big room. But I think we were like 12 by 20 is pretty typical for a room that this will play louder than you'd ever want it to. But typical domestic living room, you've got 8-foot ceilings, 15-foot walls, 15 by 20, that sort of area. You're going to have more than enough output with a speaker like this.
Yeah, and I think we heard these at the again at the Sheraton in downtown Raleigh. I think those rooms were like 18 by 13 and filled the room no problem, right? Wasn't even an issue.
Well, and if you can add subs, which kind of help the illusion of like pressurizing the space a little bit more. So of course that's going to be what's super beneficial if you have a really large room. So that's probably recommended if you're going larger than the 8 by 13, whatever we said, 18 by 20, something like that.
I mean, it's up to about, I think about 300 square feet with a typical 8 to 10 foot ceiling. You're going to be in great shape. If you got bigger, they still play beautifully, but your best response is going to be if it was used more near field. So we do see that. They got a lot of big open living rooms. If you got one of those sort of designs where you have a large kind of two-story lift in the living room, if your couch is positioned reasonably close to that loudspeaker, you're still going to get amazing sound. It's just, all the way back by the front door, it's going to drop off a little bit compared to where your seating area is.
Yeah. Very cool. Let's see. We'll start getting some audience questions here as many as we can. You mentioned, I think you touched on this a little bit, Jeff. Let's see, Chris asked maybe the difference between some of the Italian innovation and approach to the speaker design versus maybe something you see stateside. I think you touched on, a lot of it is just the design concept and a lot of the materials that they use, right?
Yeah, and it's one of the really coolest thing that's really started with Sonetto and then with the Homage series, this concept of the voice of Sonus Faber. So there's and I think we've all owned a speaker at one time or another where you're like, man, I really like the bass, or I really like this one aspect of it, but can I equalize this out so that voices sound more natural? And you can never fix that. You can't fix that stuff in post. So every Sonus Faber speaker, whether we're talking about Lumina ones or Queen Aida, all the way up at the flagship, it really starts with the way the mid-range and the tweeter are coupled together, the way that crossover is designed, the way that they hand frequencies off to one another to really deliver a very natural, non-fatiguing sound that you still get all the detail that's in the music, but it's not overly analytical. It's one of my favorite things about the tonality of a Sonus Faber. They just have this really rich, really beautiful, very natural signature. And that's all of the loudspeakers start with that. Whereas I find some other manufacturers, certainly they can maybe start with, do we focus more on, is it power handling? Is it power compression? Is it, fixed dispersion? Is it sensitivity? Those are all important as well. But Sonus Faber, they really start with that voice. We get that right first, and then as you move on up the line, then you get more detail. You get the ability to throw a bigger stage, a deeper sound stage, more dynamics, more deep bass, and that's sort of as you move up the line. That's what you get, from the difference between one of our smaller bookshelf speakers to one of the full scale, large towers, and of course, more beautifully finished cabinets. There's just, we really pride ourselves in making this is the most beautiful piece of furniture most people have in their homes.
That's right.
The woofer designs, they would be something that you would be using on a passive speaker normally. They're not specifically designed to say, hey, this is for our active speaker, so it's more shallow or X, Y, or Z. It's a fairly uniform design.
That's an awesome question, because one of the things we've done, we call it this organic basket. So you'll see this. We don't use any off-the-shelf drivers in any Sonus Faber product. So a lot of times you'll see, you look at a speaker, you're like, boy, that looks an awful lot like a Peerless or a Vifa or whatever, a pretty stock loudspeaker. So while we do work with, big driver manufacturers, it's our magnetic design, it's our basket design, it's our cone materials. So they're designed especially by Sonus Faber for use only in our speakers. But yeah, if you look at the basket on this product, it's actually a beautiful cast, very organic shape that is a whole lot of open space. So we're not impeding the rear pressure wave coming off the back of that driver. The cone itself is actually a pulp paper design. So it's very thick. It's actually very rigid, but that does a really wonderful job. Is it doesn't have any of the breakup modes that we find with the metal cone. Whereas if you drive one of those things anywhere close to its resonant frequency, you end up having a very complex notch filter you have to put into the crossover to eliminate the ringing from that metal dome. So by using more natural materials, we can sort of have the woofer design itself have a very natural out-of-band roll-off. So it lets us use simpler filters, which results in better sound.
Yeah, and that's a misconception. People hear paper and they think they're like, oh, well, paper's cheap.
Right.
Like, no, not really. If to do paper correct and do a paper woofer the right way, it's definitely not. It's far from a cheap material. Right. But yeah, I mean the woofer design across all of these, it looks similar. That's why I had to ask. I was like, I want to make sure it's not anything that's a little bit different about it.
Sure. No, the other thing that's on the woofer, because this one in a powered speaker, this is kind of a loudspeaker designer's absolute. This is the dream for a designer, right? Because it's very difficult. You design a perfect speaker or what you feel is a perfect speaker. Client goes out and connects it to their amplifier, and you don't know what that amplifier is. It could be relatively underpowered for the design. Maybe it doesn't do well into the impedance of the loudspeaker. Maybe it's has a very specific frequency contour into the loudspeaker. So by controlling all this, we know exactly what the signal is being sent to these drivers. So in this case, with that 250 watt Class D amplifier that's dedicated for the woofer, that woofer has a very, very powerful neodymium magnet structure that's able to put a whole lot of magnetic flux right on the voice coil. So the idea is we get amazing control. We can do huge dynamics, really huge huge displacement from this little cone, but because we're controlling the signal that's being sent to it, we can also make sure it doesn't bottom out or cause the driver to distort.
Interesting. We had one more question here. So Elliot Hall asked, how long will the material last?
Yeah,
so that's another question I get around.
No,
paper.
it's a great question, and we do run into that. Historically, I mean, you can see there's some really wonderful loudspeakers that built in the 1950s with paper cones. Mm-hmm. Those drivers are still 100% functional. They're ready to go. So yeah, it's a really, as long as it's not obviously exposed to direct water, you're not spraying it down with a hose. Not to be flip about it, but yeah, in most environments, these are going to last generations.
And that's really the ones out of the 70s. Material. You see the surround going bad, which is a rubber material versus the woofer itself. So the surrounds are the first piece to go. They'll dry rot, but paper itself it's going to hold up. Yeah, those foam surrounds that everybody used for a while there. It was like, it seemed like such a good idea, I'm sure, but then fast forward 15 years and just materials in the air that we breathe break down those foams. So we're using a really nice treated butyl rubber surround, so very durable, and the drivers themselves, generational.
Jeff, you made a really good comment, I think, about how for some folks this might be the most elegant piece of furniture they have in their home, right, or in a room specifically. And I think you guys, as you mentioned, really nailed the design and elegance of the speaker. But you guys have also done a fantastic job. Sonus Faber has of balancing that with some really cool sort of modern features. So can you tell a little bit more about some of the things that you can see, like with the touch?
I love this.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
So the way you can actually interface with the speaker. So we know that these are lovely to look at, and they're really lovely to touch as well. So without a remote, without a mobile device, without anything, you can go up to the main loudspeaker, control power state, adjust volume, and even switch inputs. Just using there's 3 little backlit buttons. It's a soft touch. It's not a button. It's actually a capacitive touch sensor built into the top veneer of the loudspeaker. And then there's 3 additional sensors built in that'll show you the state of whatever you're currently setting. So you can see real-time feedback of currently selected source, a volume setting, if you're in mute or not, with different colors for all of the various inputs, and that goes away after just a few seconds. So you touch the top of the speaker, and it doesn't keep up some sort of a rainbow effect while you're trying to be quiet and listen to music. It then dims really nicely, fades away back to just seeing that beautiful top veneer.
Yeah, very cool. I think someone asked, is it pure wireless or is there a wired option? Obviously, these are just wireless.
That's correct.
Just a wireless option. Let's see, a couple other questions we'll get to here. Interesting topic, just to change pivot here a little bit. So, Jeffrey asks, let's see here. I feel like powered speakers have historically been looked down on a higher end audio system. What has changed or what is the use case around these? So very interesting. I think that's certainly a lot of an opinion people probably have, or maybe a perception that people have, but I think is more and more you see these powered speakers really going up market in terms of performance. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, powered speakers are really a loudspeaker designer's dream. And you can go all the way back. I mean, you could buy the original Advent large loudspeaker. You could buy a powered version of that back in the 1970s. So powered loudspeakers have been with us for many, many years. I think there's certain people that really love to just be able to choose out, swap out their interconnects, swap out their amplification, make other changes to the system. So I think a lot of that perception comes down to the consumers and us as music lovers and equipment lovers, more than from designers. From a design standpoint, it's great to be able to control the amplification, the driver, the actual the loudspeaker component itself, the cabinet. To have complete control over that system is kind of a dream from a designer standpoint.
Yeah. Are you guys? So I think that we've had a few questions on this. I was trying to find one on here in particular, but do you guys design the amplification in-house for these?
We do. I mean, it is our design. I couldn't tell you whose Class D amplification we're using for the, no one is building their own dedicated Class D amplifier. At some point, you're buying an output stage from somebody. The 100 watt Class AB amplifier, though, that we're using for the tweeter, that's absolutely a Sonus Faber design. That was engineered in-house 100%, as was the power supply that runs the whole system.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're talking about, being a dream, just matching it down to the T. Which, if you guys are designing the woofer, that's I think that makes a lot of people feel better about getting into a system because they're like, hey, I'm worried to turn my system up because what if my amplifier doesn't have enough power and I end up clipping it or X, Y, or Z. You're really not as worried about that with powered speakers. And I find myself personally, I've got powered speakers. We had 2 different sets upstairs and I constantly am just blasting those things versus my own system. I'm like, let's be easy on it.
Right. Yeah, you never know, right? There's always that interface. It's like, oh man, what happens if I accidentally ramp the volume all the way up on my theater processor because I'm sitting on the remote or something? It's like you run into trouble.
Scott said, "Is this a happy hour meeting? When do we toast?" So we're all. I got a little water cocktail right now for the moment because I'm at the store. But Nick, you're drinking Blanton's. I think you just went all in, right?
No, I have. I was telling before the meeting. I said I've either got V8 or Blanton's. I opted for the V8. Sorry, guys. Next time.
It's still a little early, I guess, here.
I know. I didn't want to be the only one drinking and then just have Blanton's be like all fancy.
Well,
just stirring it around the
coffee
entire.
For me still. It's been one of those weeks. I'll just kind of switch over to something else after the live stream.
We'll make up for it next month. How about that? Prost. That's right. I appreciate that. All right, let's get to a couple more questions. Nick, any more jump out at you? Or Jeff?
Well, no, I just had to jump out. We were talking about the design before, and I was reading earlier, just going through the page, and they said they based it off of a lute-based design. Is the shape of the cabinet? And hold on, we haven't really shown the speaker so far. Hold on, I've got some speakers or some pictures of the speaker in here.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Look at those.
Let me see if I can get a top-down. I don't know if I have a top-down view on here. I think. Oh, yep, I do. Yeah,
lovely. That's the touch.
So that's the Senso. So you can see, so the large that LED in the center, that's actually going to tell you the state of what's currently playing. So there's different colors depending on if we're on the phono input, if we're on Bluetooth, one of the streaming inputs. The little white dots are for volume up, volume down. And then as you increase volume, you'll actually see the large center LEDs will change in their intensity and the size of what's lit. It's pretty cool.
Is that like a leather material around that?
Yeah, so it's a leather. It's in this case, it's a vegan leather type material, and then the rest of the speakers wrapped in a really beautiful veneer.
Yeah, and that also keeps you mindful of dusting the top of your speakers whenever there's a big old fingerprint right across the top of a dust outline.
They typically, they don't attract dust nearly the same. That's true.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, let's see what else. And I think someone asked, you mentioned Phono. You can hook a turntable up.
Absolutely. So it's a really very solid moving magnet Phono stage built right in. So you don't have to worry about having one built into the turntable, which frees you up. You can actually use a little bit nicer turntable with these than you might if you had to get one that had a built-in Phono preamp. But sound fantastic using that as well.
Especially on a project turntable, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my personal preference. That's the Project Walnut veneer looks beautiful with the Sonata Walnut. Absolutely.
With the lute style.
Yeah, so we do that shape of the cabinet, right? Where it sort of tapers back to a point. This comes from sort of musical instrument design. That this part of Italy where Sonus Faber is manufactured is actually very, very well known for some of the largest violin and viola manufacturers over the years. So the very, very much a big part of our loudspeaker design, and even the shape of our headquarters in Vicenza mirrors that lute shape. So it gives us really nice rigidity to the cabinet. And it also maximizes internal volume but still makes this cabinet shape very elegant, much more so than a big rectangle that might have the same internal dimensions.
Yeah. And it's a shape that's been, around for thousands of years. Hundreds of years, maybe.
You would know, obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, lutes. But, that shape's been around for so long that, there's got to be a reason they're doing it. There's a reason that it's designed that way.
Trying to reinvent it.
Yep. But there was a question I popped up here just a second ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if I did that by mistake. Sorry about that.
No, it was me. So it's like, can you explain how Class AB on the mid/tweeter and D sound uniform/cohesive?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the needs of the drivers are very different, right? So the Class D amplifier, we love the jump, its ability to swing tremendous amounts of voltage very, very quickly. So it's perfect for use for the deeper, deep bass especially. The 75 watt Class AB amp that we use on the tweeter, they have the same input sensitivity, so it's really easy to keep those. And you see this a lot in bi-amplified systems. We actually do something very similar on the Macintosh side. Well, at least I should say philosophically similar, where we use vacuum tubes on the top end in solid state for the woofer section on a couple of our new monoblock amplifiers. So it's not really all that uncommon to use different amplifier types depending on the needs of the loudspeaker. The key is just controlling the input sensitivity. So for a given amount of input from a source, the loudspeakers are putting the same amount of acoustic output into the room. And that's another back to that designer's dream of a fully active system. We can control all that inside the design of the loudspeaker itself.
Yeah, and it keeps it, having the Class D on there keeps it more efficient, keeps your heat down by quite a bit as well. And speaking of managing heat, I don't know if I have a picture of the back of the. Yes, I do.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Picture of the back of these. This was what, initially when I saw this, I was like, what is up with this this design here in the back of the speaker? Do you want to touch on that, Jeff?
Earlier.
Yeah, sure. So you'll notice at the center of it's a really gently tapered port. So you're not going to get any actual noise or chuffing or sort of port noise as the loudspeakers putting additional air out into the room. But those fins that are surrounding that's the heat sinking for the amplifiers. So these things are going to run very cool. And as you mentioned, that a Class D amplifier for the bass section, which is really going to be delivering most of our energy most of the time, that runs very cool. Whereas the Class AB amplifier has plenty of heat sinking. So this loudspeaker, even full on day-long listening session, even show environment conditions. When we were running this at Audiophile Live all day, these things were still cool to the touch and producing huge output in the room.
Yeah, I know we touched on that, but I probably can't impress that enough. Like we had some pretty cool high-end audios, at the show, some really high-end speakers. And I mean, these were like up there with any of them in terms of the talk of the show and how much they impressed and, folks, real-time reactions. So again, kudos to you guys for, $4,000 pair of speakers, getting as much publicity and talk as speakers many, many more times that, right?
Yeah, it's a little dangerous actually when we bring these to shows. We just did an event recently where there was a big, beautiful system and a very expensive big monoblocks from another manufacturer, Sonus Faber Aidas, basically a $500,000 system that was on display at the dealer. And in the second room, we were playing duettos. And pretty regularly, people are walking out. They're going, "Wow, that big system was amazing!" But did you hear those duettos? Those things are ridiculous. Because I think it hits this more approachable price point, right? There's a lot of us that love music, that identify as audiophiles in our own way, but just don't have the space, the budget, the wherewithal, or the desire to put together a huge multi-component system. So this is a really cool solution for those people that want to get something that's wonderful sounding, that really delivers that sort of Sonus Faber experience, but in a very simple sort of just add source kind of system.
Do you have, someone asked, I can't remember who it was, maybe we'll pull it back up. Do you have to tow these in, or how would you set them up ideally?
It's really season to taste. I mean, in the manual, we do recommend that traditional triangle type arrangement. I do find that their off-axis response is really quite good. So when we show them at Audio Advice, and often when we do, we play them straight out into the room.
Right.
See, that's that. We've got a few questions on speaker stands. I've got one that's just random that's popping up.
Sure.
But do the optional stands, the Duetto, come or have channels to hide / manage the cables?
Yes, it's actually one of my favorite sort of unspoken features of Duetto, and you can see it. Can you bring up that picture that shows the front and back of the speaker? You'll notice it's a little tough to see in this image, but underneath the black speaker, actually underneath both, there's a small channel. So if they're just sitting on a bookshelf, the cabling comes right out through the back of the speaker at the very base, but it's actually inset inside the base of the speaker. So the stand does have a companion, the cabling runs right down through the stand and then out along the floor. So it doesn't break up that really beautiful visual look of the speaker by having cables jutting out the back of it. All the power cords, all your signal cables, they drop out through the bottom.
Yeah, which is
clean.
Yeah, that's super clean. Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that. You end up running the cable out and around, and I assume these probably take a typical AC type cable, 3-prong cable.
Actually, a little figure 8. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A little figure 8, even better. So yeah, you can get longer cables if you need to hide it through, which is really nice. Are the sources? So if you're having a source component, I didn't see that on the speaker.
So the HDMI
on the bottom as well.
RCA's. Oh, yep, absolutely. Everything's.
So if you have a turntable and your Phono preamp built in, are you still able to run that in whenever you have the stand on?
Yes. So this is So the RCAs are actually accessible. So just keep that in mind, though. If you were to put these in a space, you will have to think that extra 3 feet from the speaker stand height, and then whatever additional length you need to get back to the system. So a typical 1 meter cable that you go right into the back of a powered speaker, not going to cut it. You'll probably need a 3 or 4 meter cable to
Which
get
is
from.
Another callback back to true balance connection.
Yeah, right. I mean, kind of perfect.
Yeah,
if you want to do a really, really long run, a project with a true balance connection, just run that as a line level input instead of phono, and heck, you could run that as far out as you need to with a balance line. That's for another day.
Yeah, speakers are separate, but they're made specifically for these, as you mentioned. I think someone asked, are they included?
Yep.
Break-in
and this
time.
is EARC. So both ARC and EARC compatible. I just saw that pop up in the chat.
And somebody also asked, do you need a 90-degree angle cables for that?
No, you do not.
Which is good. That's a huge pain whenever you need the little bend in it.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, we've got so there's an HDMI input. However, you have to go out and buy an adapter. No, that's not the case. There's plenty of room in this. The way the actual connection pack for all the loudspeaker cables is more towards the front. So it gives you plenty of room to get a bend down through the stand. Or out the back of the speaker if it's being used on a bookshelf.
Christopher asked, will these make my kids' crappy music sound better? Like, maybe. There's always a chance, right?
I mean, it's going to sound as absolutely good as it can. That's what they're there
That's
for.
why you want to buy a nice set of headphones.
Yeah, for those guys. Someone asked about break-in time. I know that's kind of maybe not controversial, but people have different thoughts on that. If you're just getting these out of the box, would you let them play for a little while to open up, or you feel like they're ready to go? Right out of the box.
They're going to change. The absolutely the mechanical properties of the drivers are going to change over time. But the old I feel like break-in sometimes is used by manufacturers that are like, you need to break them in just a little bit longer than the return period.
That's right.
And that's when they sound great. Or if it's your cables, it's this. These things sound great right out of the box. So they're going to mellow out slightly over the first couple of weeks of play for sure. But this is not, one of the things about this driver design is it's not going to take forever for these things to open up and finally be like, oh, wow, it's great. I mean, it's one of the beauties of natural materials and really having the amplification built for the loudspeaker. They're tonally very, 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 very nice, sweet right out of the box.
Yeah, burn-in's also a time for your ears to get a little bit more used to it too. Our ears have burn-in whenever we get a new piece of equipment. Whenever I change, so I constantly mess with like DSP on my system. When I change it immediately, I'm like, do I like it? Do I not like it? Let's give it a week before I start changing things around.
Yeah. So I saw another question here in the Saber DAC versus the AKM. So we actually have 2 dedicated DACs inside this product. It's explained to me anyway, all of the streaming sources. So the network type source, if we're using this with Rune, if we're using the HDMI input, if you're using the fiber optic input, that's all processed by the ESS. Bluetooth connectivity is handled by the AKM.
Interesting.
So it's just a little different way that the circuit was lined up. So instead of having a digital bus that feeds everything into one, it's actually an analog bus that feeds the output from the 2 digital sections.
So is there a specific reason that you guys went with ESS and AKM? Was it that one of the designers just said, hey, this sounds better? Or
I honestly, I'd love to say that I had a great answer for there, but I'll respect you in the audience enough not to make one up. I haven't heard that directly from Livio, but
that's really interesting.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one to get.
Yeah, so let's see.
Yeah, we needed the really high bandwidth, right? Because if we're doing Rune, if we want to do really high resolution, you're going to need a superior DAC. So we really like the Saber DACs for a lot of our sister companies. Just gives us the ability to do everything up to 32,384 in certain implementations. So,
do you guys offer a remote with these? Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, do you guys have a remote? Or is this all through the app?
Oh, absolutely.
I was looking to see. Okay.
Yeah, it's got a great little, very similar to the Omnia remote. It's actually the same little, it's kind of very, very slim little handset. You can do input selection, volume, mute. So you can run it through the app. You can run it through the top panel. You can run it through whatever your mobile device is that you're streaming from, or it does have a basic remote, which is handy, especially when you're listening to your turntable.
I love having a remote. Yeah, I mean, I'm a remote hoarder upstairs. I've got like 6 remotes. I've got a remote for my fan, so I just keep them all laid out on the table. Somebody was asking, is it RF or is it infrared?
I believe this is an RF remote. I've never run into. Let me double check for that on you.
Yeah, because I was looking to see if I could tell where a sensor was if it was infrared. Because
I believe this is an RF remote.
Cool. Yeah, because that's not just for, so everybody in the audience knows. If you have an RF remote versus an infrared requires line of sight. So if, let's say that I'm in my kitchen and I'm trying to control, some speaker in my living room, I just have to like reach around and be able to shine it directly at it, versus RF can be within that vicinity. For powered speakers, I don't find that it matters all that much for the most part. But it's still a nice little thing to have. Jeff's going to check on it just in case.
You got it.
I know that
now
look.
Stuck
I do the same
now
thing.
it's stuck in my head.
Hey, to be determined.
Here we go. We'll get you right there at the end of the by the end of the call. So, yeah, it's been a really fun product to get out there and play for people. The whole goal for Sonus Faber is just to kind of give you this really wonderful musical presence. This is the first time we've had an opportunity to do that in a powered loudspeaker. So it really doesn't take away from the performance of, a similarly priced passive speaker. If anything, this starts to freak people out a little bit, because it's like, well, wait a minute, this thing's really good. Do I want to buy a pair of, Sonetto 2s and separate electronics? It's like, well, it's going to depend on the application.
Yeah. Which, I think that as people are kind of going to more compact living rooms, more minimalist style, especially for living rooms, I'll admit I don't have a full crazy system, and I use powered speakers in my living room. It's just one of those things that I don't have to run cables everywhere. I can have a clean look in my entertainment center, and it's just really easy to do. I have a theater that's separate, but some people with like studio apartments and things like that, this is perfect for you. But again, if you're a tweaky kind of person, just two different cups of tea.
Yep, absolutely. So we've had this question a couple of times. I think we should just take it head on. So yeah, these are manufactured in China. Both of our powered loudspeakers are. So we do all the design in Vicenza, Italy for this loudspeaker, but the physical manufacturing does happen for this product in China. All of our passive loudspeaker product is made in Italy.
Yeah, and I'm sure that really all these companies that do manufacture in China, at least that we work with, are very, very tightly monitored. The factory itself, and so we never really, we their quality controls amazing. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. But the quality control on nearly all the products that we carry, that's something we really look for. So if anything's got quality control issues,
absolutely,
we'll be the first to.
And I can tell you that there's a tremendous amount of attention that's get paid to that. The wood finish, especially the veneer, the actual electronics, the chassis parts. These are the same level of fit and finish you'd find for any of our products.
Yeah, and we saw them in person. They look fantastic.
Maybe speak a little bit to how they're connected and how that impacts latency and so forth.
Yeah. So there's an ultra wideband connection between the two loudspeakers. So we can basically do the entire from, very, very low. I'm not going to say DC because that's not true, but very low, 5 or 6 hertz all the way up to 50 kilohertz, no problem. Total latency in the system is about 10 milliseconds. We correct for that in DSP. So it's just right around 10 milliseconds from the time that you press play to when the loudspeakers are putting that signal out into the room.
So Jeff, I want to ask you about this. This is a controversial topic when people hear DSP and they hear turntable. So what are your thoughts on connecting a turntable that's going through DSP, since an analog going through a digital conversion?
Yeah, I mean, so there's no wrong way to enjoy music, right? Yeah. This is something we feel kind of across the board.
It's a great way to preface your answer.
There's no wrong.
So yeah, if you want to play your turntable, yes, we are converting that signal to digital so that we can, it's going through an analog to digital converter, and then it's being, processed to the loudspeakers and then sent digitally out to the second speaker in the pair. So yeah, no question. And then it's, high resolution analog to digital converter or digital to analog converter on the other end to send it back into the loudspeakers themselves. But one of my favorite demos, and we've done this at shows for years with one of our sister companies, we would take the output of a turntable, run it through the Phono preamp, output that signal digitally into the DAC inside one of the preamp, run it through a room correction, which did another generation of A to D and D to A, and then out. And people would walk into the room going, man, just that sweet sound of analog all the way through. Warm. Yeah. We're like, it is. But, if done correctly, you definitely, on a pet product like this, there's no reason that you can't get really great sound, even doing that analog to digital conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something I like to say too, is that I think there's some type of magic in the format itself of vinyl. Of course, some people come and say it's the pops and cracks, it's the but that's not really what it is. There's just something inherently, I guess it's probably the lower end because it's mono on a record. That could have something to do with it, but yeah, I definitely think the format itself has some magic to it.
Yeah, well, it's nice. You get the opportunity to kind of do both.
Yeah. Maybe Nick, pull up the photo one more time. Somebody asked about color finishes. Is it just walnut? But you can see both finishes here in the image. There you go. So you can check those out. So two great finishes. Any plans down the road, Jeff, for anything anymore?
I'm not privy to it. This is the team that's taking the field.
There you go. And someone asked, are these shipping yet? So we've been taking pre-orders for a little while. I think we're going to have our first pair shipping here in the next week or so. So stay tuned. Don't want to commit to any date just yet, but they are on the way, en route. And as soon as we get them, we'll be sending these out. So they'll be hopefully getting to you all. If you're ready, want to bring a pair home, they'll be getting to you here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. And we've had a few questions about how they're going to be, are there going to be updates
Blanton
as
sucks,
the products?
Nick, by the way.
Hey, tough. I know. I'm like, ouch, right in my heart. My tongue. Yeah. Don't worry, guys. I can't really tell the difference. But we've had some questions about updates that will. Yep. Well, it gets software updates, upgrades as time goes on. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can do over-the-air firmware upgrades. So if this is connected to the internet, if there's something that is required, absolutely. I mean, we can't do hardware changes over the internet.
Yeah.
So, but sure. I mean, we've done this with Omnia, and we'll continue to do this as necessary with Duetto.
Yeah. Well, I think app supports. Oh, I was saying app support's a big one. Whenever one of the big things that I noticed, some companies, I'm not going to name anybody, but whenever iPhones have the notch that came in, they didn't upgrade for that. Even their app wasn't supported. And so looking at y'all's app, it's very simplistic, which is really great to have. I mean, it's got a lot of features, but it's very simplistic. So it's gonna survive over time. You're not packing too much in there that's going to be outdated and couple years.
I mean, our overall approach to streaming, and this is kind of across the companies, is that we are not our core competency is not software engineering. We do not have a room with 12 people writing code and designing apps and all that stuff. So we really want people to use whatever the existing music source is that they're using. If you like Tidal, if you like Qobuz, if you like AirPlay, if you like Spotify, like whatever you're doing, if you're a Chromecast person, awesome. Cast to this device. If you're an iOS person, you want to do TuneIn, AirPlay to this device. Use the existing interface that you're comfortable with, but we're not going to try to reinvent the way that you're accessing your music. So that's really the idea with these. Just support some really nice open standards, and then with the added inclusion of Rune to do high resolution audio over the network, you really can do just about anything you need to.
Yeah, which Chromecast, I think 2496 is Chromecast. Maybe it'll do 24192. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure for Chromecast, but
yeah, Chromecast is one of the higher bitrate wireless streaming services. So or wireless streaming platforms, so to speak, protocols. But yeah, that's what I use quite a bit, just for that exact reason.
Nick, anytime someone brings up Rune, I always want you to do your quick 60-second digest.
My elevator pitch on Rune. I love Rune. I'm a Rune nerd,
which is why I'm coming to you.
Yeah, so I've got my obligatory Rune pitch. Rune really is a platform that combines a lot of different streaming services. So it kind of hosts it all in one space. That's at its core what it is. But the cool thing is you can stream to multiple different zones, multiple different types of speakers. So if I have AirPlay speakers, if I have Chromecast speakers, if I have something that's Rune ready or Rune enabled, I can connect them all up and basically make distributed audio through my entire house. That is 100% bit perfect. If it's Rune certified, whatever you send it, it's going to play, which is really cool. I use that all the time. The other thing I really like about it, and this is part of the reason that I'm a vinyl fan, is a whole, I collect records because you can read about it. You can pop it open, read about, see who in the credits there are, read little short stories, art, whatever. And with Rune, they have that same thing kind of in a digital platform. So if I pull up an artist, I can read about it. I can see who's credited on the album, all of that. Rune is not cheap. And it does require a core, which is just basically your computer. But I use it nearly daily.
Yeah. We've got, another use cases in our stores. We use Rune in all of our stores. So we can stream something like the Omnia. We have our outdoor speakers on it. We have, really a high-end towers, bookshelves, you name it. And we're able to go in and select any type of, music service, and connect all those in different zones and so forth. So it's a fantastic tool for those of you who may be interested in checking it out more.
Yeah, it looks like we've got quite a few people in here that use Rune as well. So I'm not alone in it.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, for sure.
All right, we got a couple more minutes. We'll knock out one or two more questions here. Let's see. They sound different on stands versus a cabinet or a desk.
Slightly, sure.
Slightly, yeah.
So we don't have like a microphone-based setup system built into it, but you do have some room boundary control available in the Sonos Faber app.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Well, I had a few questions earlier about people saying that there were questions of kind of the longevity of powered speakers. Because whenever you think about grabbing a standard speaker or a speaker and amplifier, you're like, okay, if something goes wrong, I can replace part A or part B. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a tough one, right? I mean, we don't build in, we certainly don't build any planned obsolescence into any of our products. So these are designed to operate for a long time. I mean, I do understand that there's an appeal to separate components that way, because if you do change that, you want to change the amplifier, if you want to do something different, 15 years down the road, the amp fails, you can replace that. So these are designed to be repairable. They are, I wouldn't say that there's any lifespan that you have to be concerned with, though.
Yeah. And warranty wise, do you guys have this standard Sonus Faber warranty on this?
Yeah, we support a 3-year parts and labor warranty. On the speaker.
And that's plenty. And what we've noticed, if something is going to die, it's probably going to die within the first, probably the first week you have it realistically. But extending that out to the first year, 3 years that's more than enough.
Yep.
So let's see.
All right, Nick, the pressure is going to be on here in a minute for best question winner.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. There's been some really good.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see.
All right, while you're doing that, I'll pull up. This will go live here in just a minute. We'll go ahead and let everybody know what we're going to be giving away next month. So be sure to check us out and go ahead and enter now. We are going to be doing the brand new Arcam radio, which is just launching. We're going to be one of the exclusive folks launching this whole new series of Arcam products that we're super excited about. So be sure to tune in there. All right, Nick, best question.
All right. Well, I had to consult with a third party. All these questions were good. So if I didn't pick your question,
don't blame me.
Don't come for me. That's an unnamed third party. But the best question was from Davis Turner, according to the third party. Well, what stands out when touring a hi-fi factory? So this definitely sparks some interesting conversation. I agree with the third party. But yeah, awesome. So Davis Turner, reach out to us. We've got a $100 gift card for you.
Yeah, very, very cool. What stood out most to you, Jeff, when you had the chance to tour the Sonos Faber factory? Maybe like one or two things that if you could put people there in your place, what would they see?
So I kind of touched on it a little bit. So the wood shop was amazing. That just watching the cabinets being constructed, the care that went into matching the veneers that go into a pair of speakers. But one really, and it's just a tiny thing, but it blew me away. There was a room that was only there to completely get any humidity out of the wood that was going to be used in the loudspeakers themselves. So it's
very cool.
It was a huge locker that was kept at about 45 degrees Celsius. So it's pretty hot. But the idea was that it slowly would remove any humidity so that when the veneer was finally applied to the cabinet, there wasn't going to be any additional moisture that would cause that to peel back or cause any sort of oddities in the finish of the loudspeaker. But just all these little touches that went into the manufacturers. To watch people actually applying the damped apex dome, the little bridge over the top of the tweeters, to watch the hand assembly. There's things that go into a Sonus Faber speaker that you will never see that are absolutely as beautiful as anything on the outside of it.
Yeah.
And just saw so many little instances of that when I got to really get in and dig into the factory that it was very special. I'm sure it totally changes your perspective on like, these are absolutely worth it when you have that level of detail that goes into everything, right? Yep. All right, here we go. Our big winner of our Sonos Faber Duettos. Thanks again, Jeff and the team at Sonos Faber for participating and supporting us in this. Is at almost $4,000 value, right? So our winner from our third-party certified results is
Jeffrey Zinker from California. So Jeffrey, congratulations. We will be in touch with you very, very soon and reach out and get these on your way. You can have your choice of color. So I'm sure you'll be super, super happy. And of course, these are available at audiovice.com or in our stores here in North Carolina. So be sure to check them out. They'll be shipping here real soon. Thanks everyone for joining us all over the country. I think someone said they're joining from 35,000 feet. So that was pretty cool too, on a plane ride somewhere, still able to get the stream, I guess. So we will see you all again next month. Thanks again for being with us. Happy holidays. We'll see you all real soon.
Cool. Thanks guys.